Talking Perspectives. Today's guest is Mr. Gourav Samal. Gourav has been a project assistant at IISC Bangalore in the Department of Instrumentation and Applied Physics since the past 2 years. He had completed his bachelor's from NIT Rourkela in Metallurgical and Materials Engineering, along with a minor in Mechanical Engineering. He also has experience of internship at companies like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and General Steel. During his bachelor's, he was also a part of the Formula Racing team of NIT Rourkela, where his expertise was in race car drivetrain engineering. He is also a recipient of OP Jindal Engineering and Management Scholarship. He has worked full-time as a welding engineer at L&T Hydrocarbon Engineering. Post that, he joined IISc and since then he is here. Gourav considers himself to be a materials engineer by the day and a master tinkerer and builder by the night. He has a knack for designing and fabrication of integrated photonic devices for point-of-care testing, molecular diagnostics and medical imaging. And Gaurav's endeavor is to build smart and accessible healthcare solutions for society. Hello everyone, I am Abhinav and I am back today with another episode. So today, as I told in the intro, we have with us Gourav and Vedang. So today's guest will be Gourav Samal and Vedang will be helping me host this show. So before we start with any questions, I'll just give a bit of background of my own interactions with Gourav. So Gourav met me around a year ago. He has been in IISc since 2 years, as I mentioned earlier. And the reason I wanted to invite Gourav since the very beginning was because he's a really big science buff, I feel. Like, if you ask my honest opinion, probably the biggest science buff I have seen till date, based on the discussions I have had with him till now. So I'm sure that this will be a pretty interesting, insightful discussion, and I'm quite glad that you decided to come to this show. So thank you for that, and thanks to Vedang for being ready to co-host this. Okay, so with that, let's start with some initial questions. Then we'll discuss more on certain topics we have already decided. So this episode will majorly be focused on sciences, education in sciences, research and innovation. And with that, let's just get a sense of how you got into sciences, how you got initiated as a kid into sciences, and what led you to come here right now.
Okay. So hello everyone. I'm Gourav, and as he said, I have been into science for a long time. So during my schooling, during my 8th, 9th, 10th, and even before that, I was pretty much interested in science. I was not the topper or something like that, but I used to be pretty good at science subjects mostly. And based on that, I would say there was a kid show coming in Discovery and National Geographic. I guess its name was Backyard Science.
Yes.
Long back.
Yes.
That time we did not have Dish TV or something like that. We just had a cable. But I used to see that show and ask my ask my teachers in school, like how this is done.
And what age were you around that time when you?
This was around 6th, 7th class. I'm talking about.
I see.
So there they used to show many things related to fluid dynamics and whatever they're showing, they were showing YouTube clips that time as well in TV, that see how one concept I remember asking my science teacher during 8th class, I guess, was this elephant toothpaste. Not much people know about it at that time. So basically it's just a chemical reaction which produces a lot of foam and it just with H2O2, I guess, it just
Yeah.
produces a lot of foam during that time. So I used to venture around those things, and I used to get interested, and I also think how it can be used somewhere else, or how it can help me in doing science, or if I can test it out
Okay.
during that time. So that was my schooling days mostly. Then I did not study a lot, but I was really interested in science
Okay.
from that time. Then came 11th, 12th.
Yeah. So then the story. Yeah.
So it changed a bit because in 11th, 12th, when I got to know properly that what is JEE in itself, so I already had a keen interest in science. And there are like it's the typical Indian story that you get either engineering or in medical sciences.
Yeah.
So
Then it's the same old Jay story.
Jay-
It's the
exactly.
same
You
for
don't
all.
know. You don't
Every
know
Indian
like
kid has gone through
what
that.
else, because I mean that's the period when like you I mean instead of like following your original passions, you get sucked into that competition phase, right?
yeah, but then again,
Yeah.
the point was that JEE is just a means to get into some college, but
Yeah.
it does not mean that your interest in something will should diminish because of that.
Yeah.
So most of the people forget that when they go into college and higher studies,
Yeah.
that they forget that why they got into there in the first place. That is the education system.
That's there.
Yeah.
True. So, like you told about this show that you used to see, Backyard Science.
Yeah, there are
So
many
was
other
there
shows.
some? Yeah. I also remember like there were shows, some art-related shows which also incorporated science-based things.
Yeah.
So, but was there anything else also which during your childhood period inclined you more towards science compared to other
Mostly
things?
it
Or
was-
some person who was there in your life?
Yeah,
Because
my-
I'm interested in knowing how come you see everything from the perspective of science, which is not so common. Even when you talk to researchers or those who are scientists, it's a unique aspect that he has. So I just want to know if there is anything more to it.
So you can see, like, I see science as a tool to understand things. So you asked that if any person was there. So because of my inherent interest in science, plus my father himself is a professor in biotechnology.
Oh, okay.
So I had an initial exposure to biological research, you can say, whatever he used to do during his PhD work and during his professorship, during his teaching times. So I used to see these big posters he used to make and see what is going on, and used to ask him. So
Yeah.
that is how I can say that I at least got an idea about the biological side of things. But then again, I had my own interests. Because of that, I completely pursued the science path,
Okay, I see.
and I would say rather the engineering path, because I saw that in medical sciences you get limited by the your
It's
pathway
more,
limits.
It's more clinical. It's more about
Yeah.
service to the
Yeah,
patients.
yeah, and it's very limited only to medical sciences. It's
Yes.
but engineering, by doing engineering, you can go to any field you
Any
want.
field you want.
So because of the I could say versatility of the field itself, I chose engineering, to go for engineering.
So this you decided after during your 11th, 12th, or in your school days?
No,
That you'll
that-
be focusing
So
more on
more on
engineering because of
engineering
the
and-
reasons you told. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I had decided in 11th, 12th only that I will only go for engineering. I took computer science, no bio, so no
Okay.
possibility of me giving the exam. So even though my parents wanted me to go for it, but I find myself more suitable in the person as in who understand and tries to build things out of something using science, rather than going through the service side of the medical science.
Right. And so while do you remember like the first thing where you like built something from your own, like you like genuinely explored the engineering side of it, the innovative side of it, where you are making an experiment, building something like you mentioned backyard science. So, did you do anything in your school days? Any memory which you have of some thing, some product you developed or some experiment you worked on?
I remember one thing now. So during my 8th class, we all know about science exhibitions and all. We generally religiously people go for it. During our schooling days at
That's
least.
the usually when the spark comes.
Yeah.
Most people seeing other science experiments, trying yourselves to replicate some stuff.
Exactly. So there was a concept called a space elevator. So the idea was that using some sort of physics and science and materials engineering, you can build such an elevator which makes it possible just from Earth, you can just ride it out till space. And the physics makes it possible, but the economics did not work out that time. But the interesting part was that the concept was there long time back. But due to the discovery and actual practical materials being developed like graphene and CNTs, carbon nanotubes, that actually carbon nanotubes made it possible that at least there is such a material, if produced and manufactured scalably, it could lead to a space elevator someday, ignoring the financial aspects. So in 8th class, I had done a project on space elevator. What would be the length? So there is something called as the geosynchronous orbit. So basically, all the GPS satellites are geosynchronous satellites and things like that. I don't even remember. There are other types of satellites which are geosynchronous, which needs to be logged in a place over the top of a particular location over Earth. So the idea for the space elevator was that if you have the CNTs and you could somehow build a structure which would one structure would start from the base of the Earth and another structure would come down from the geosynchronous orbit from a satellite. So you could join them and make a physical structure from Earth to space. So my project was demonstrating that. So I had built some mechanical model showing that.
Amazing.
So quite amazing.
That was, I would say, my most successful project because it took me to the national level science exhibition. It was held in Kolkata. It was, I think, organized by this Birla Planetarium, and entire CBSE and other. So what happened was there was initially district level, then state level, then national level. So first I got in the district level one prize. I was qualified for state level. Then from state level I got to the national level exhibition.
And it's so interesting to look at it because usually in school level, the normal achievement which we see are in sports. People don't consider science that much.
Or it's in Olympiads. Or
Exactly, Olympiads.
But this is a different.
This is a different thing where you are like going into research, you are going into like core engineering and exploring its principles. Because for Olympiads, you have a problem. You know what kind of problems to expect. But this is something which you are doing out of self-motivation.
It's driven by curiosity.
Exactly. It's very difficult to do such a thing like this at such a young age. I mean, that's something very much commendable about you. Then, so what happened next? Like once you like went to the national level.
Yeah, again, like there were different competition, even quizzes being held on science there. So I got the runners up there. I could not win because again it was a team based, it was not individual. So two people and my partner was unfortunately or fortunately we did not even know that we would get tag team, so we did not have prior plans. Otherwise we could have sorted something out.
Still it's a big achievement.
So again again, because it was a national level event, I got to meet a lot of different people, even friends that I have till this day.
Wow.
Like I met some
fellow like-minded people. It's a good place to meet especially for science.
I saw
Yes. Yeah.
I saw many northeastern people that I have not met
Oh,
before.
Okay.
So I still remember their names, and one of them is again doing his PhD in IISC Kolkata.
Oh.
Wow.
So again, so all the people that I knew that time have either gone into something related to science that I met there. And again, it was like more than 10 years back, 8th class.
Yes. 8th class. Okay.
Yeah.
You still remember it that vividly, and then you still are able to explain so well that what has happened. I mean, that itself tells that that must have had a huge impact on you, right?
Yes, because again, as I said, I was always interested in science. So this was the event which followed because of my interest. If I did not have this interest, I would not have reached that place.
Right, right. So after 8th, 9th, that was your school day. So
Yeah.
I guess you did you do anything? Did you explore more into this in your 11th, 12th, or you went back into college and then got a chance because?
So this project in itself, as I said, so science is correct in its own way, but there are financial aspects and practical aspects towards engineering.
Right, right.
So that is what still limits this concept. It does not mean the concept is not possible, but that's where when you go into engineering, you learn more about feasibility,
right,
and practical aspects of research, what is possible and what is not possible.
Right.
Theoretical physics and everything, theoretical sciences is fine, but then again you need to apply it somewhere to
Right,
get some
right.
meaningful results.
Definitely.
So I would say that journey started around 11th 12th mostly, because 11th 12th gives you a background for college.
Right.
I say 11th 12th are the most important phases for any student.
It's building the foundations, the basics of what you will be using later,
Definitely.
trying to apply this.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you don't have that basics, again, it's not that people cannot learn later,
Yeah.
but it gives you that.
This is a formal time when you can just focus on that only.
Yeah.
It's more of that. So one of the things I am really interested to talk about with you is the interdisciplinary work that you are doing right now or since a few years. So you are working on fields related to microscopy, then a bit of biology, microfluidics, as well as I think some coding component is also there as part of your work.
Yeah, basically we're trying to build a product. So when you are building a product, everything comes into place. It's not just that you build one aspect. So as you said, there is a biological aspect, there is a instrumentation aspect, there is a coding aspect to it as well.
So usually we talk about this also that we people tend to work in silos. So someone might be doing metallurgy, you come from a metallurgy background. Someone might be doing instrumentation, and it's rare to find someone who can work with maybe two fields. And if someone who works in more than two fields, it's even more of a rarity. So that's one thing which surprised me from the outset when I first interacted with him, got to know about his work. But I think before we talk in detail about what all is more about the details of his work, I wanted to know after doing your metallurgy majors, you also did minor in mechanical
engineering. Yes.
Yeah.
So first let's hear what kind of impact a minor in mechanical had on your overall education, because I am also a metallurgist, but and I had interest in mechanical, but I didn't feel like the coursework will suit me. I anyways don't like courses too much, but since you have done it, maybe you can tell how that degree helped shape you and prepare you for research.
So I would like to start with saying that during again college time, I was mostly into clubs and even playing. So I used to play football So that took most of my time.
And still you managed. And
yeah.
you were into race car?
Yeah. I was
also?
coming to that only. So the point was, once you get into college, so there are two aspects again. Your parents, even the mess guy tells that if your son has to do good in college, he has
Yes.
to study,
Get good marks.
get good
do
marks,
well in the courses.
good CGPA and stuff like that. So again, in 11th, 12th, you run after something, you get something, again you come here, then someone else will say that you have to run after this
Yes.
to get something else.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Now again, people go for jobs, higher studies. Again, a crucial component again becomes study. You have to keep studying.
True.
But I had a different approach that generally in first year what happens is people try to change the branch.
Right.
So first few months, okay, I thought, okay, I'll also try. But then again, I thought there is no point in trying for that. From the perspective that maybe another branch pays a bit more.
Right.
Maybe another branch pays a bit less.
Yeah.
But the inherent drive to go for that branch I did not have.
True. Okay.
So the way I do things is I need to love it or need to have a craving for doing something. Then only I will try to achieve that. If I don't have that, then even if I try to do it, I don't generally get success in that. If I try to do it, then most probably I will get it. That is the way I approach things.
True.
So I need to
Have the
conviction to
Conviction.
yeah.
Wow.
So because of that, I thought rather than again running towards something else, I'll try to make out things from what I have. So things like
align your coursework with your interests.
With your
maybe
Your studies with
again
your
in first year generally it's a general coursework
Ah,
for
it's-
all of us in India. That is the norm in general.
True.
So a general coursework prepares you or gives you at least an overview of all the branches that there are. So again, it is the same for all, no matter what branch you are from. So at least it gives you an overview that yes, there is coding, there is engineering aspects, mechanical engineering, there are physics subjects, there are chemistry subjects. And I used to be good at chemistry during my 11th, 12th.
Okay.
A lot. Like chemistry was the subject.
It was your favorite subject. is it?
Yes, and the most scoring as well.
Oh, right.
So as I said, like if I love the subject, I will do good in it. So out of all the subjects, physics, chemistry, math, I had like 50% score in
Oh,
chemistry and
Wow.
rest everything in.
I expected he'll be good at physics or
Physics,
math
even I
because
expected.
he opted
Yeah.
for mechanical and he does coding related stuff.
Yeah.
He does more of instrumentation and chemistry doesn't really come
Yeah.
as much into all of that. But good to hear. That
But then again,
chemistry was also-
people approach chemistry as a subject that they have to remember. But I don't, as I said, in backyard
I
science
see.
when I used to see, it's
Yeah.
purely logical way that you need to understand chemistry as. Still now people ask me chemistry doubts and even I have very good chemistry notes till today
Wow.
that people
I
take
see.
from me. So the point is that chemistry as a subject in 11th, 12th was such that I approached it in a way, and again I was going for coaching as well for IIT. So there my teachers were such that I learned, you can say even my maths teacher helped me get that feeling of how to study. It's not just that you wake up one day and will go preparation for JEE Advanced or JEE
Yeah,
Mains.
True.
You have to do it day by day. You have to build yourself day by day.
Right. Sure.
So chemistry as a subject, I thought you have to build your basics first. Then everything will be like, yes, this happens for a reason.
right.
Otherwise, what happens is people just remember that this plus this goes to this.
True.
If that happens, then you are not understanding the basics of the chemistry aspects. You need to have your own reasoning. I still remember SN1, SN2, nucleotide
Oh,
yeah,
substitution, and
You
things
still
All
like that.
remember
reaction
those
mechanisms.
concepts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
I
remember. Wow.
So,
I mean, very few people even
Yes.
like I was like after 12, you ask me anything, I wouldn't even have understood a single thing, because it was a very, for me personally, it was a very exam oriented thing, because I knew I don't want to do chemistry anymore. Because it was like, chemistry was like that for me, because most of the inorganic stuff,
True.
most of, I mean, if you go into D block, P block, you can ask me anything. So these are all elements, but I still wouldn't be able to answer anything. So that, I think, takes real passion to like really go into and understand, okay, this is how the reaction mechanism actually is working, and you get something.
Like it's
I mean,
like one line he said that you need to have your own reasoning
exactly.
of things, and if you are able to get it, then you will be more comfortable, then things
Yeah.
will be like,
Even
make more sense to
till
you.
now I remember why SN1, SN2, how the substitution happened, what was steric hindrance, and how it limited the ability of a
Nucleophile to attack.
nucleophile to attack.
I think organic chemistry is a lot. It has a lot of logic if you can understand
If
that
you can
logic
understand,
well.
yeah.
If it makes sense to you why things happen. For me, it was never the case, for whatever reasons.
Even I remember one of my friends, he is Jatin, he is doing his physics PhD in TIFR Mumbai.
Wow.
So again, he was a pure physics guy. But one day I heard from him that again chemistry is just physics in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Because
it's all about attraction, repulsion between different
Yeah.
atoms interaction.
So what reasoning I was talking about was that physics based reasoning that you can develop once you get reach a certain level. So he is very good in physics, so he could understand why SN1, SN2 and these type of nucleophile based mechanisms work, how electrostatics and all played a huge role in chemistry when he
Right.
ventured into chemistry.
Right,
So
right.
that is the reasoning that I was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. So that reasoning comes from different branch, which is physics and maths.
Yeah.
So it's not that chemistry by this subject. So not all people need to remember or know physics or maths to understand chemistry, but as a tool, it surely helps to learn physics and maths to understand chemistry.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can also relate a lot with that because I also got into metallurgy. I was a very big physics and mathematics loving guy. But after getting into metallurgy, after initially studying some fundamentals, after a few years, it took me a lot of time, unlike some people like him. It took me a lot of time to see that things are not really so separate. Physics and chemistry are not two different bodies. They are one and the same, just two ends of it. So now in metallurgy and materials engineering, I deal with a lot with chemical interactions, atoms having physical and both chemical aspects.
Right.
So it's now like I'm not really just a materials engineer. I work with lots of different things. It's just a name that we give to something. You have to give it a name. But it takes a lot of time to get that kind of a perspective on things, right?
Yeah.
So if you are in sciences, eventually you have to develop that. You have to work with whatever is required, and it's good that you are able to develop it so soon.
Yeah, so you had asked about interdisciplinary, right? So during my bachelor's itself, when our courses start during the second year, the third sem, we actually get to see. So you are from metallurgy, so you might have learnt about furnaces, reactors, things like that, iron making, steel making courses like that. So there also you will see first basic things that you will learn in iron making, steel making is they will teach you the chemistry of it first.
Yes.
Then they will go for actual design, why they are doing that. Most of them are just physical phenomena being explained by either chemistry or physics.
Yes.
So metallurgy as a branch is application oriented because that's how it originated.
First
that's
the applications came.
Then people
Then
try to
people try
understand.
to understand
To
what
increase
we-
the productivity, to increase the
Exactly.
output, they tried to figure out what might be happening.
Exactly.
Then the science came.
They were the people who actually started metallurgy would have experimented with different things.
Just a furnace, you put some stuff, you try to mix things.
Yeah, and see what happens. That's how
Yeah.
people started experimenting, and that's what has been passed in the metallurgy branch.
I remember I saw in Veritasium.
Veritasium.
I don't know if you might have seen it. It was a video on making blades.
I
Japanese
think
technique,
it was
a very old Japanese technique of making.
they
blades.
were making. I have
And-
seen that video.
Uh-huh.
They will talk about how to make katanas in a forge and
Yeah.
how they make Damascus steel and things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And what surprised me was that it was maybe 500 years, 800
More
years,
than
or
thousands of
maybe
years
more.
old.
And they were using principles which are very like almost the same that we are studying right now.
Yes.
These are principles you can't figure out so easily, but just by trial and error, or maybe they just applied themselves, they were able to figure out 3 or 4 different principles which they are combining to end up with such a high quality blade.
Yeah.
That's quite fascinating.
Yeah, their major process is hammering. When to hammer.
When
So-
to hammer, yeah.
So we all know about formability as materials engineer. We all know about formability, how materials work. They did not know that, but what they were good at was observing and experimenting. So that's the reason. So it's not that if one person figure out, they had a good culture of passing that into generations. That's why the people who are still who are featuring in that video, they are from that same generation which passed down that technique of
And
making
they do
katana.
it really religiously. They
Yeah.
won't do anything else. They'll just do that's one thing very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that is the reason they were successful at doing it.
True.
So that's the reason even Veritas Field that made that video. Otherwise, there are many bladesmiths around the world, but there are only a very few who actually know how to make very good swords and actually know the principles behind it as well. Even though they might not understand the science, they understand the principles which will make it hard, make it soft. Processes like quenching, we read it.
How to prevent cracks,
Cracks.
how to make it as perfect.
And how to make it hard, how many times to cool it down.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to repeat that process. It's not
Yeah.
just a single time.
It's like
That is part of like, because I come from a non-metallurgical background, so I don't understand like
you
most
might
of
be
the things.
able to relate it with protocols or some
Yeah.
biology related things.
Right. So you mentioned another word which is formability of materials. Can you just explain in a minute like what is formability?
So one of my professors, Professor B.C. Ray, he is one of the senior most professors in NIT Rourkela. That's where I am from.
Okay.
So he used to teach us phase transformation, and that was, I would say, one of the most eye-opening subjects for me, because of the way he used to teach it, not the content. So he used to tell that science and technology are very different. Science, you understand things fine, but technology is very different in the sense that you have to understand how to apply that science and in a way that people can use it. Technology is made for people, it's not just made for yourself, it's made for how to So he used to tell that steel as a material is the best material out there. There is no other material you can search anywhere in the world which has so many forms. The steel that we use in bridges is not the same as the steel we use to build our homes. So what is this material? Steel by itself is not just iron and carbon. There are a lot more other things which
even trace elements, they have a big effect
Bigger
on the
properties of these materials. So he said, as you asked about formability, steel, I would say, is the best material out there as of now, because you can add something to it and change its property. You can heat it in a certain way to change its property. So this is true for all the materials, but all the materials may not have that much wide variety of properties, changes, or versatility or adaptability based on the conditions that you are trying. So you can make it add nearly as hard as silicon carbide or diamond with when you want to make it tougher also, because if you want tough materials like for drilling in mines and drilling tunnels, you make use of materials like bainite. The bainite material,
modular structure.
Yes. So Benite is a, you can say it is not the same as martensite, but it is a structure-based change in the steel that gives it its toughness. So people figured this out with steel. That's how our entire world progressed. Right now, you go anywhere, you will find different types of steel in your spoon, your bikes, your cars. Obviously, there are better materials, but there is no other material which can perform all of these functions in any domain.
Right.
So there is high-speed steel that is used for cutting. Even the materials I was talking about, there are better materials, but you again use steel to cut those materials.
Yes.
True.
So you asked about formability. Formability by definition is how the ability of a material to be shaped, how easily it can be shaped into a working. It's not that everybody will just get a flat sheet of iron and or any other material and shape it like wood or any shape like a table, chair, something like that. So you need like diamond as a material, its property are very good, like it's the hardest material there is. But if I make a chair out of diamond, is it possible to even make a chair out of diamond? So its formability is very less. It cannot be bent into shapes. It cannot be molded into shapes. So as a material, it is good. As a usable or a engineering material, it is very bad. Because of the cost, because of its very low formability, it cannot be formed into shapes. What is the use if I just get a rod or a piece of diamond? What will be its use? There is no use because there will be no functionality part to it. So formability is related more towards function rather than its material properties.
So when you are making a material, you also have to see how it can be manufactured.
Yes.
The cost aspect is there, as well as the feasibility of doing it.
Yes.
So an engineer has to look from all those angles when he is working.
So that is what my professor that time said, and that is how he approached that subject itself. Otherwise, if we don't have that concept, we are as engineers will not.
Definitely. We'll be restricted to just our own. In academia is common. We'll be just restricted to our own
silos.
I remember I was reading Elon Musk biography. So he loves stainless steel. He just loves
it.
And he has developed this philosophy that if anything is to be made, any component, first it will be made with stainless steel. Then they'll see whether it works or not. And only if it does not work with steel, they'll go for something expensive, maybe some higher, better alloy, more expensive.
Mostly titanium.
Titanium, nickel-based super alloys, some composites. But I think that's a fascinating thing that such a great engineer, he knows the importance of some very basic things, and he knows that if you want to make things cost effective, you need to do things a certain way. You can't just go with the best things and just believe that yes, I'll be able to do this because I have taken all the best.
As you said, you cannot just always go with the best thing. The best thing may not be feasible. That's what I was explaining about.
And that's
space
what
elevator.
innovation is about.
Yes.
Really. That's what innovation is about. That's like the work you do. It's a lot about doing things with minimal resources.
Exactly. So mostly in low cost perspectives, how to achieve things or do things with very less resource. Otherwise, what happens is we have a lot of very good materials, very good technologies, but sometimes they don't scale. That is what people generally don't have idea about, how to scale things. I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but thing is, there are, as you said, the best material may not work out in the first place. You need to get it sourced from somewhere. Then you have to manufacture it. There is manufacturability aspect. Then again, cost. Who is paying you to use the best material there is? So
not everything is government funded.
Exactly.
No, even governments would not have
not
that much amount of money. We can see ISRO as an example for it. They try to do all low cost projects. If they would have budget of NASA, just imagine what they could have been. But again, that's a paradox kind of thing. If you give people more money, they will try to use the best things available
Yes,
to them.
that's the problem actually.
But then again, if you give less money, people will complain that you are giving less money. So that's where the paradox is that.
Yes.
But then again, the innovation comes when there is a deficit of something. So
When there is a deficit of something and you have an environment where you can
yeah,
create
which,
something.
which helps you, facilitates you in the creation process.
exactly. So both are equally important. But then again, there should be a need. Without a need, there is no innovation.
True.
So it's like people will say you are finding a solution, problem for a solution.
Yes, yes, true. That's a very common problem. Even like I see every day in my research with my colleagues, we are always trying to see what's the application we can cite for this one. So that's a common problem, and you need to get out of that mentality at some point of time. If you want to do something real, you need to get out of that.
So you had mentioned Elon Musk. So about stainless steel, right? So his entire idea was to use the starship's frame as stainless steel.
Yes.
And he has implemented it. It's not that he went back again to titanium or something. No, he has made the biggest starship or the space vehicle there is with stainless steel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he found a very good way of not using. So the best material. The idea in his case was to. Even I had given a presentation on this particularly, on the stainless steel aspect of it. During my BTech, ceramic people had asked me, ceramic branch had asked me to present on something. So the idea was that if you know how space shuttles and these things work, Kalpana Chawla is the best example, as in a way the worst example to give is that their science failed in a way. That
it was a materials problem.
It was primarily an operational as well as a materials problem. That what happened was generally when you go to outer space and come back, you have to encounter re-entry forces. And when you go into re-entry, the materials that you are using, generally there are many aspects. You need to have active, passive, different types of cooling to cool, because while you re-enter, everything just burns because of friction with the atmosphere. So NASA and in general the space shuttle that they develop always approaches the Earth at a slight angle such that the material which is facing towards the atmosphere will get sacrificed and nothing happens to people inside. So they use a ablation kind of method that whenever there is
there are heat shields.
There are heat shields
on the outside surface.
Yeah, they use carbon as the heat shield in general. So basically that is graphite and interlinked carbon in between the graphite itself. That has very high melting point. But again, that is a sacrificial material. But what if the sacrificial material what you have is damaged? So what happened in Kalpana Chawla case was that only, that before the launch there was a part which fell from the top onto the space shuttle's that heat shield part and broke a certain part of the
of the heat shield.
One of the panels of the heat shield. So during re-entry what happened was heat escaped from that area and entered into the basically that space shuttle chamber, and it was instant disintegration of this space shuttle, you can say. Once the heat entered, there is a pressure change and due to it just exploded.
It's a very fragile thing.
I mean, that's what happened with the recent submarine accident, right? It imploded.
It came into my idea.
I don't remember the Titanic. It was called Titanic, I guess, because it was supposed to go to the Pacific, deep down, to search for Titanic remains, and it went to very, very that low, and because of a certain, I guess, again impediment due to which the pressure chamber, the pressure when it balances the pressure, that got compromised. and it was a fraction of it was a microsecond worth of implosion, because that's how much time it took
Yeah,
for
it's,
the pressure
the
to balance.
environment is such that
Exactly.
things are very
And-
fragile.
Yeah, but in that case, that Ocean, what was the company name? It was Ocean something that made
Yeah,
that
yeah,
submarine itself.
Yeah.
But many people saw even the engineering aspect of it. There is no vehicle possible to go into that depths, because they were a private company. They somehow got access to it, but most of the people thought it was a negligence rather than an engineering fault.
Hmm.
It was not engineered to go into that
It was,
depth,
Yeah.
but people went beyond it. So there is no point in
to do a
criticism.
manned mission to such depth.
Exactly.
That's that's
Exactly.
People
where the
have
problem
gone
was.
before, but I think
They were one people.
they were one or two people. Yeah.
This is not a community trip that they are
Yeah.
going down. But again, the point is only if we focus on the engineering aspects. The engineering aspects were not supporting enough for it to go to those
I see.
depths.
Okay.
So that I would not say is a challenge. This was a something different
This was,
issue.
yeah.
But the engineering aspect was the issue during this Kalpana Chawla thing. It was an operational issue rather. They should have aborted the launch when they had seen. They should monitor their parts, or should have sensors at least to see how much of their critical components are in place. Otherwise, issues like this keep happening.
Yeah, there are 1,000 things that can go wrong.
Exactly.
Like, with such kinds of critical missions. So you need to have backups of backups so that
Exactly. So that is
everything
generally
is in place. Yeah,
generally in space, whatever is going. So generally, they won't. Even I have worked with a startup called Spacionova.
Yeah.
So there, I got exposure more into how to build things in space and what materials are used. My role was that only, to look into the materials that are being used and to design certain components.
Oh, okay.
Basically for balloon experiments, even people in
Okay.
IISC do that.
Yeah.
So to do microgravity experiments.
Okay.
Wow.
So the idea is space always is a limitation, weight always a limitation. So you need to do something called as redundancy.
Yeah.
But redundancy in itself is against the concepts of space and flight, in the sense that
You
anything you do redundant is a waste of space and
Yeah,
money.
yeah. You need to optimize also, but you need to think about the like redundancies. The
Redundancy
backups
is a
also.
safety procedure that
Mhm.
you implement. So if one processor, what might happen is there might be some radiation or something which messes your electronics. So you cannot rely on just one processor. You need to have multiple processors, and in working in tandem in such a way that if one goes out, the other two will be able to handle the load.
The entire. Okay.
So things like that are very
I see.
common in space, because even you can take any space mission, there will be things, redundancy in place to ensure the safety of the people or the equipment.
Okay, so one of the things I had decided I'll ask him about was when I was going through his website. He has a wonderful website. You all should see it sometime, and he has written a few blogs also. So you should check them out sometime. So there I saw that during COVID you did a few projects. You
Yeah.
were doing some projects related to detection of COVID, a bit on DIY, do-it-yourself microscope.
Yeah.
So this is connected to what he told earlier, that you need to be able to make things, create things with the minimal resources.
Yeah.
So this was, I think, related to that. So tell me how you, during COVID we all faced challenges. So that was unprecedented and it happened.
Yeah.
So how did you get into working working on this project, or deciding that you want to do a project related to COVID detection or something
Yeah.
of this
So
kind?
again,
And tell a bit about this project also, what it is.
yeah. So again, it all started out during my BTech days itself.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
first year, You had asked me, I had a minor in mechanical engineering. Generally, minor starts after your first year, generally in the third sem.
True. Yes.
So, for me, I was part of a club where we used to make cars, as you had mentioned before. So we call it as FSAE, Formula Society of Automotive Engineers.
Okay.
So generally, FSA as an organization organizes this events called as so it is part of the Society of Automotive Engineers. The Formula Society mostly look into the cars or formula cars rather. So we all know about F1 and things like that. So there are different Formula 1, 2, 3, then Formula EV as in Formula electric vehicle.
Electric vehicles.
So that time the club that we had in college. So my idea was that to get into as many clubs as possible.
That's usually the motto when people have just got in. But
Yeah.
tell me how it.
So generally, when first years come into the college, all these clubs will have a day, generally in the weekends, where they show off whatever they have done.
Yeah.
So first few weeks only, we saw the club called as Team Roadrunner (TRR), who are the official FSA team of NIT Rourkela.
Okay.
So they had just built a car. Basically, my seniors had already built a car, and it was on display. So I thought this is one place I can be where I will actually be able to do some engineering.
Yes, that's a very good place.
Yeah.
You
So-
do lots of different kinds of. There are different teams for different things. You can work with all of them.
Yeah, there are again different. So they do some sort of orientation where they show that there are different departments within this team. This team works on this. So I thought I will go into. So we all know about pulleys, gears, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that is the typical bread and butter in physics questions in
Yes.
JEE.
All
Yeah,
entrances.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I need to get here. So which path I need to go? Because there are some parts which I'm not familiar with. So I tried to join drivetrain, which is a sub-component of the team, where all the transmission, gears, and engine to tires, whatever the energy needs to be transferred from the engine to the tires, is called as the drivetrain.
Yeah.
So I thought this is the place I can go, because that part was mostly what we learnt in physics,
Right.
and a lot more mechanical
More on
engineering.
mechanical.
But again, the core concepts are based on that, based on gears, different types of gears. So I thought this is the way I will go forward with. Then they do a written exam.
Okay, for getting into the club.
Yes,
Club itself.
It's a very
Okay,
competitive club. I thought I'll go, but then I decided it's already too much
I see,
competition.
I
I'll
see.
So
let it be. But
generally,
it's a really good one.
because again, I was from a different branch.
So,
Generally, all the
yeah.
people that go into that team or that club are generally from mechanical engineering. My senior, my immediate senior, who was that time the current team captain, was also from metallurgy only.
Okay.
But he had very keen interest on building something. So he was the team captain during his time.
I see.
Then I saw that this guy is a materials engineering guy. So why I cannot go there? So again, I did not think that much about that. I just thought I'll just give the test. And they put basic questions on drivetrain, because in their slides they used to show what they are working on. So I just read on that and gave the exam. And again the interview and stuff like that, then I got in.
Right.
There I got into proper mechanical engineering concepts, because it's not that you just see some videos and you learn. But right now another aspect was you have to manufacture the car to make it run.
Get
So-
your hands totally dirty.
Yeah,
Just try
yeah.
out stuff.
Hang on.
Just see.
Yeah, but then again we have only 1 year to make it, because every year you have to make a new car.
Yes.
So there are time constraints, there are practical constraints in place. You have to order things. That's where you see actual engineering
True.
happen.
Yes.
So I was introduced in my first year based on that. So in the first year generally we start with basics, we learn what is drivetrain, how it happens, then we go into manufacturing. So the lead I took was in manufacturing. Even though I was in drivetrain, I was looking into manufacturing more and more.
Okay.
How the manufacturing should happen, how to make this, that, what process to use, and things like that. So you can say that I was more in the operations guy there. Even
Right.
even there were people along with me in the drivetrain. There was another one of my batchmates who was more into the designing aspect of things. I was more into the manufacturing aspects of things, how it can be manufactured, what to manufacture, things like that. So there, this is one of the clubs I was part of.
Wow.
So again, as I said, I did not take bio during my 11th, 12th. So I took computer science. So there are generally three options in our college, school that time, that you either take bio, as the fifth optional subject, you have to take either bio, a computer science, or HPR, that is a sports based.
Sports.
So there are three options. So I chose computer science because I knew what would be the importance of computer science later on.
Definitely.
Because that time AIML and all things were not that much into place. But I had a pretty good intuition that learning that would not be a waste.
Yeah.
You had that mentality early on.
Yeah, you probably thought more into the future of applications rather than
looking
more at the functionality instead of.
Yeah, because if I took bio, again, the thing is that in my school, I sometimes used to sit in bio class also. It's not that my teacher used to know me. I would just sit and listen sometimes and ask questions, and other bio people would tell me, "Arey, tumhare class jana."
I mean, this is like the Three Idiots Rancho class. Do you remember Rancho used to like his statement I remember. स्कूल में पढ़ने के लिए जो किताबें नहीं, यूनिफॉर्म चाहिए, यूनिफॉर्म.
Yeah.
So once you are interested into something, it doesn't matter because no one is going to say no. To be very honest, because school में ना, I've seen it in 11th, 12th, people don't care that much about attendance because people have coaching, people have other stuff to attend. So school lectures, I think most people take very lightly.
हाँ, बट मेरे स्कूल में थोड़ा स्ट्रिक्ट था, ऐसा नहीं है.
ओके.
जब हमारे मैम नहीं आते थे बहुत बार, तो मैं तो बैठ जाता था और की क्लास में. जो बायो क्लास मतलब एक ही सब कैसा था कि ऑप्शनल सब्जेक्ट सब तो सेम क्लासमेट्स हैं, तो एक ही स्लॉट में तीनों क्लास अलग अलग जगह होते थे. अगर एक नहीं आया तो मैं दूसरे जगह चला गया. HPR तो नहीं जाता था, वहाँ पे पढ़ने को कुछ है नहीं. मतलब हमारे स्कूल में एक्चुअली अभी मुझे पता है कि HPR में भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, बायोमैकेनिक्स एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट विच कैन बी लर्न, बट तब तक उतना खुद के स्कूल के टीचर्स को एक्सपोजर नहीं रहता है. अभी मैं बोल सकता हूँ कि थोड़ा इतना सालों बाद कि ये भी अपने में एक फील्ड है. यूएस में जाएंगे तो ये पूरा का पूरा लोग इसमें कोर्स करते हैं, बैचलर्स करते हैं, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. बट देन अगेन इंडिया में इतना नहीं था तब. मोस्टली तब सिर्फ आइदर लोग, इवन कंप्यूटर साइंस भी बहुत कम लोग लेते थे.
Computer science was in itself just something related to IT, nothing more than that.
तभी उस टाइम में वैसा ही था. बट मैं सोचा था कि ये लेने से थोड़ा फायदा है एटलीस्ट. मैं तो फिजिकल स्पोर्ट्स प्लस गेम्स खेलने वाला बंदा हूँ. तो आई यूज्ड टू, एज आई सेड, आई यूज्ड टू प्ले फुटबॉल एज वेल. तो वो फिजिकल स्पोर्ट्स साइड चला गया. एंड अगेन आई यूज्ड टू प्ले कंप्यूटर गेम्स एज वेल. सो क्या रहता था ना कि कंप्यूटर गेम्स व्हेन वी आर इन 8, 9, 10 तब किसी के पास पैसा नहीं है गेम खरीदने का. सब तो कहीं से क्रैक डाउनलोड करेंगे. तो तभी थोड़ा मेरा इंटरेस्ट था टुवर्ड्स कंप्यूटर्स. दैट आल्सो पुश्ड मी टुवर्ड्स कंप्यूटर्स मोर. गेम्स से भी आगे, मतलब यूजिंग द कंप्यूटर इन इटसेल्फ. अभी तो हम लोग उतना इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं समझते हैं. 2-3 साल के बच्चों के पास भी मोबाइल फोन्स है. वो मेरी मम्मी से अच्छा मोबाइल फोन यूज कर ले. बट अगेन द पॉइंट इज दैट अभी इतना एक्सपोजर बढ़ गया है लोगों को, इसलिए पता है कि जैसे आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट मनी, ब्रांचेस में कितने पैसे मिलते हैं. तो यू कैन गो एनीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड एंड एनीबडी विल टेल यू, यू गो इनटू कंप्यूटर साइंस और एनी रिलेटेड ब्रांच, you will get the most money possible.
True. And all fields need computer science. That's why.
Right now it's
It is a shift
like
towards
that,
that.
automation, computation.
Yeah.
Those things are there. So again coming back, हम लोग कहाँ से कहाँ
So
पहुँचे?
okay, yeah, we started with, I wanted to know how during COVID you got into working on a project related to COVID
Yes.
detection. No?
So that club part
Mm-hmm.
basically was my practical entry into engineering.
Oh, I see.
कोर्सेज तो सब कर लेते हैं.
हाँ.
मैं बोला ना कि इवन हमारा मेस वाला मेरे पापा को बोला कि हाँ पढ़ाई करेगा बेटा तो अच्छा जॉब लगेगा या ऐसा कुछ. तो बट मैं वैसा थोड़ा नहीं सोचता था. मैं सोचता था कि लोगों को प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स आनी चाहिए कुछ भी करने के लिए. सो द आइडिया वाज दैट यू गेट इनटू, मैं सारे क्लब्स में कोशिश किया, 5-6 क्लब्स ज्वाइन कर लिया. कोशिश किया कि सबका पार्ट रिलीजियसली रह सकूं. बट अगेन थोड़ा टाइम मैनेजमेंट का दिक्कत हुआ तो कुछ क्लब से भी निकल गया. बट जितने भी प्रैक्टिकल मतलब ऐसे निकल गया मतलब ज़्यादा एक्टिव मेंबर नहीं रहा. बट टीम रोडरनर एंड एक क्लैरियन करके भी एक क्लब था जहाँ पे इट वाज बेसिकली ए पब्लिक स्पीकिंग क्लब जहाँ पे पार्लियामेंट्री डिबेट्स फॉर्मेट में रहता है. तो मेरा एक मतलब वैसे ही फर्स्ट ईयर में एक दोस्त मिल गया था जो बोला चल वहाँ पे जाके देखते हैं. मेरे ही ब्रांच का था. कि उसका कोई दोस्त था उस क्लब में, वो बोला था उसको ज्वाइन करने के लिए. पूरा प्राइमरली स्पीकिंग ओरिएंटेड क्लब था. तो मैं सोचा कि चलो देखते हैं क्या है एंड स्पीकिंग स्किल भी थोड़ा अच्छा हो जाएगा. देखते हैं. बट दे वर वेरी सीरियस गाइज on public speaking, but when I eventually got into the club, मैं ऐसा ही सोचता था कि अगर मुझे कहीं जाना है तो मैं घुस जाऊंगा वहाँ पे. मेरा वो एबिलिटी है. तो मैं उस टाइम मुझे लगा कि हाँ यहाँ पे जाना चाहिए तो मैं घुस गया. तो जैसे मैं बोला ना सब में टेस्ट रहता है, वहाँ पे भी 2-3 लेवल ऑफ टेस्ट.
रिटन टेस्ट या
स्पीकिंग है क्लब तो स्पीकिंग टेस्ट ही लेंगे. तो मुझे बोलते हैं कि 1 मिनट में तुम्हें एक टॉपिक दिया जाएगा, तुम्हें 1 मिनट उस पर बोलना है एंड जब वो ऐसा टैप करेंगे तुम्हें ऑपोजिट स्टैंस में बोलना है. ये मेरा दिमाग खराब हो गया भाई, क्या बोल रहा है ये. लाइक इट्स अ वेरी टफ इंटेलेक्चुअली सोचना. वो कोई भी टॉपिक हो उसको बोलते थे फॉर एंड अगेंस्ट. तो तुम्हें उस टॉपिक जो भी मिलेगा उसके फॉर में बोलना है. जब वो बोलेंगे कि चेंज करो तुम्हें स्विफ्टली चेंज करना है टू दी अगेंस्ट. एंड वो कितना बार भी ऐसा कर सकते हैं, उनके ऊपर
अच्छा है. तो हर बार नया सोच के यू आर सॉर्ट ऑफ इट्स लाइक अ मेंटल रेसलिंग, राइट? यू हैव टू कॉन्स्टेंटली
तुम कुछ बोल रहे होगे फिर कुछ ऑपोजिट वे में बोलना है. प्रिपरेशन के लिए 1 ही मिनट है.
It's like playing chess with yourself.
Exactly.
You keep rotating the board. And you never know which side you need to make to win.
तो ये पहला टेस्ट था. फिर दूसरा टेस्ट एक फुल पैनल इंटरव्यू, क्यों आना चाहते हो क्लब में वगैरह वगैरह ऐसे था. तो मुझे लगा कि हाँ मतलब मुझे तो बोल दिया कि तुम ज्वाइन कर लो. तो मैं ज्वाइन तो हो गया बट आई सॉ दैट दे वर एक्चुअली प्रीटी सीरियस गाइज इनटू पब्लिक स्पीकिंग. मैं अपना बस स्पीकिंग स्किल इम्प्रूव करना था. मैंने देख लिया लोग कितने अच्छे बोल सकते हैं. दे वर वेरी गुड पीपल हु मतलब कैन आर्ग्यू वेल,
राइट?
so on topics which are related to society or even in science, we even have talks on something related to there is a show called Black Mirror or something like
Yes.
that. So basically that show is about technology and how it impacts our lives. So let's say there are people who can become immortal, but then what would be their purpose in life? They started doing suicide and things like that. So the idea was that how do you defend against that topic or tell for that topic?
Right.
So there are people who can do that. So I was
dangerous people. Yes.
So intellectually you have to think that way, and there are people who do it on the go. Directly they will see and have things in mind and think really well.
Right.
So from them I learned a lot just by seeing from them how they speak. So it's so even if you are in any field, this is a very critical skill that you can have. So these are the type of clubs that made me who I am today. So there are practical aspects, speaking aspect, which is again very practical nowadays, because things like science communication, how do you communicate what you are doing in research to common people?
Yeah.
Not all people will understand what you are doing.
Yeah.
So in that way I thought that was important, but then came COVID. So I had just before COVID, what happened was I went into a conference. So this is during my second year, fourth semester or fifth semester, fourth semester, I remember. So there was a conference going on. It was ICPCM, International Conference on Processing and Characterization of Materials. There was a professor from MIT, from mechanical engineering. His name was Professor Ashwin Gopinath. He was working on something called as DNA origami.
Yeah. Okay.
So that topic is basically, you can think of how you can code DNA, and when you leave that pieces of DNA floating around, they will bind together to form a shape.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So you can think of it as a smart material that you can code on the nanoscale, and you can make shapes. So he showed us that they can make smileys, they can make cartoons and different complex shapes with that. So I instantly thought that this guy, I was working with another professor in NIT, Professor Ajit Behra, who was actually organizing the event.
Okay.
I was formally working with him during that time in smart materials. So he said, I am going to organize this. So I already had a fair idea of who was going to come. So there are 3-4 foreign professors coming, one guy from MIT, one guy from NUS.
Okay.
So I thought this is my chance to get introduced to these people and how to connect with them. So I became part of the organizing committee.
Wow.
Because again, my professor was only the basically the convener for that event. So I already knew who was coming, where he was staying, their numbers, everything. I had that. So generally we assign one person to stay with one of these profs.
Okay.
So I went with the
You
MIT
went with
guy.
the MIT guy, the DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So just small talk, then converted to long discussions. From there I got to know him. Even after he went back to US, we had pretty long conversations. Given that I was just a guy from
just an undergraduate from college he visited.
Yeah. But I used to have long talks, as in hours.
Wow.
1 to
Seriously?
2 hours.
On
Phone.
On
On
phone.
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 Oh,
Wow.
wow.
For an MIT professor to give that much time itself is a big deal.
So the people who are listening to this, nothing is impossible.
Exactly.
If you have the right approach, you can
Yeah,
do whatever
basically
you
I
want.
planned all of this in a way.
Oh.
So I thought that to get into foreign studies later on, I would have to make a path for myself. And I have to do something that generally people don't do. I have to differentiate
Usually
myself.
at undergrad
Yeah,
level,
you
at
need
least
to
people
differentiate.
don't know. So that is something very great about this.
Yeah, so actually I planned all of this. So I thought initially I will make friends with him, then discussions, and somehow it worked out. Like we had similar interest and things like that. He wanted me to grow, and I wanted his help, things like that. So again,
Usually you plan this way with girls with the opposite gender, but now it's
completely like
he loves
academic.
sciences more, so it makes sense.
so in that way, basically again, like you have the social events just after these events.
Yeah.
I went there, then exchanged numbers, and like that things happened. Then after he went back also, we started working on a few projects. So I used to share my ideas, he used to tell his inputs, because again he is also from a materials engineering background in a way. Although he is a core mechanical engineering prof, his work is on biomaterials.
Right.
This goes in domain of biomaterials.
Is it?
Yeah, DNA.
Working with DNA and like even though you are doing some part of engineering, but
No, it is in the
at
domain
a very
of
microbiology level.
micro.
Maybe
again,
we shouldn't just stick a label to it.
No, it is not microbiology because there are no living things involved in a way.
Okay.
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 So it's just the material. You are using
I see.
DNA as a smart
As a
material.
smart material.
Oh, I see.
So DNA can be coded, right? You can make ATGC pairs,
Right,
and
right.
you can basically make it in such a way that you can control each and every aspect.
Hmm.
That we know, you can think of it as coding itself. We know that A will bind with T, G will bind with C.
Yes.
So based on that interactions, you can model the DNA to make shapes. Now people in I think in IISC, I heard from one professor, Rahul Roy, in chemical engineering.
Hmm.
They make shapes like pyramids, double pyramids
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
with DNA,
DNA. Yeah, they do.
and they use it as a transport for a drug. So they encapsulate the drug inside the DNA, and they transport it through bloodstream for cancer research, mostly cancer drugs.
I have read about it.
So they are
And
doing that.
it comes in biomaterials. Now I agree, but I didn't. True.
Yeah, so that is how the biomaterials aspect of DNA origami
Okay, I see.
comes in. So
Quite
again,
interesting.
so that is his core field till now
Okay.
in biomechanical engineering, and he is a part of mechanical engineering in MIT. So then we thought we'll do something. So as you both know about microscopes. Generally, when you are a bachelor, you don't have a direct access to a microscope. You just see it during your labs, or if you at least go in your third year to a prof, then work during your senior or final year. Then only you get an access to a good microscope.
Right.
So in bio, you generally have transmission, bright field, inline microscopes. But in our case, we just have bright field and dark field reflection microscopes.
Reflection microscope. Yeah. Okay.
That is generally not used in biological because you need to see through cells, but we need to see the surface of the material.
Yeah.
So for that you need a very good depth of field, and that generally is in both microscope depths of field can be done, but generally we see in reflection microscopes.
Ours are opaque, so there is no other.
There is no way
unless
to
you
transmit.
do something like
Very,
EM or something.
but
very
again
thin
that
film.
goes beyond
But,
microscopy,
yeah.
optical microscopy at least.
Yeah, that will be.
So I would not tell it exact microscopy. It's electron
it's
microscopy.
Not, yeah,
So in domain of optical microscopy at least, these microscopes are not very easily available to a student. So we thought, again, coming from a materials engineer's perspective, how we can basically develop a microscope out of common things that are available to us. So initially I just thought we had a lab called as product development lab. In materials engineering, it was introduced newly.
Okay.
So my faculty advisor was heading that course. So I said, sir, give me money, I will build something.
Wow.
Generally what people do is they will so that was a lab course. So people just go and see some instrument and write something about it, do some experiments, that's it. But there is no product development at all.
Okay.
But I thought if this course is giving me a chance, why not take that chance? So I thought we'll build something. Then I was searching for different things, literature review and things, what I can build from normal things. So I saw some projects in which you know about AFM, atomic force microscope.
Yeah.
Some guy built a atomic force microscope using CD DVD lasers.
Wow.
I know that professor. He's Professor Edwin Hugh.
Yeah.
So I thought, can we do it? Then I got to know what is AFM. Then I got to know it is very complex to start something with.
Yeah.
So it's very instrumentation focused, instrumentation heavy. So one of my skills was that because I know a lot of people from my clubs and generally in my batch. So I used to ask my electronics people that can this be built, my other people that this can be built. So I had a lot of contacts. So based on that I thought AFM is not the right project for now to start with. Let's start with simple microscopy. Then I went for microscopy. That same DVD guy only made microscopes as well. And it was not his original concept, but he showed how it can be done. So following that, I started building on it. And one of my friend Guna also joined me on that.
I see. Okay.
So this was during our 5th sem, starting of our 3rd year. Then we thought, then we got money, we took our lab computers, took out DVD from that, and started experimenting, literally. So again, this was not the typical thing that generally materials engineering people or metallurgical people do.
Yes.
But I thought, okay, let's do something. We have a chance, we have a course for it. It's not that we are missing out on the course, lab course, but we have a chance to do something, let's do. Then what happened was just after 5th semester started, COVID came, right? So I thought what we can do now. Just after 5th semester it was ending, COVID started. That is when the session changes and all. So I thought, what can we do right now? Then again 6th semester March only COVID started, right? So again our work was stopped. I was in talks with Ashwin back then as well. During that time, we used to discuss our ideas.
So this professor at MIT, his name is
Ashwin
Gupta. He is Indian origin person. He later on moved to MIT.
Yeah. So he was a PhD graduate from Brown University. Then he went into MIT as a prof. He has been part of many other organizations like Google and other.
Before joining MIT.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you cannot directly go after PhD anyway. MIT is very competitive.
MIT, it's one of its own kind.
Yeah. So you need to have a lot of very good resume for it. So again, he did a lot of. He has worked with Samsung. Yeah. He has worked with Samsung and other institutions as well. Google Moonshot Factory, that basically is a fund for startups. So he also right now he also funds people in new ideas.
Okay.
Even though he's a professor, he also acts as a VC.
Venture capitalist. Yeah.
He is a part-time venture capitalist. Not like he is there.
He is.
Oh, yeah, good. I see. That also is something professors can do. So
Definitely. I mean.
You need not only be restricted to your teaching or
your
lab
research projects.
Yeah.
Some people become communicators also, some get into startups, venture capitalism.
So,
So you were telling about how during COVID you were in talks.
Exactly. Now you got to know what happened with that CD DVD, right? Now we thought how we can repurpose that. So we just got an idea that how we can repurpose it to do ELISA. ELISA is a process you might be familiar with. So we thought how we can read out ELISA on a surface of the disk itself.
Okay.
So then we thought of an idea. So
I'll just explain the audience. ELISA is stands for enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. So what ELISA does is so most common test for ELISA would be for TB or your typhoid and other very common tests. So where like they take your blood and they do a spot test. So in that spot test, they add your blood or any of your fluid sample. Like it might be your sputum based on whatever whatever the pathogen, whatever the disease is. So they'll take the sample and on that sample they'll add their own solutions. And these solutions are actually antibodies. These antibodies then bind. So antibodies are your immune system molecules, which are specific for a special binding protein or disease. So for ELISA, you have like let's say for TB, you will have TB antibodies, which react with the tuberculosis molecules, and once they link to that, they have another molecule which gives it colors. Upon binding, it will give it color, and based on that marker, we use that as an indicator of whether the person is positive or negative for TB. So if the antibody binds, it will release the color causing compound, and that will say that the test is positive. If there is no color change, then it's negative. So he employed that, and then he used the CD-DVD writers, the CD-DVD readers, which have lasers in it, to actually get an output, right?
Yeah. Basically, colorimetric, it's a based of colorimetric detection.
Yeah.
ELISA is a process in which you measure the color's intensity to basically characterize different compounds and their concentrations.
Right.
So, in that way, we could see ELISA is a selective test. That means, as you said, antibodies. Generally, we have something called as a capture probe or a capture antibody, and that is very specific to something like an antigen, or something you can think of it as, he said COVID, he said tuberculosis. So there is other diseases as well which will produce a certain marker or a molecule which is representative or specific to that disease only.
Yeah.
So we thought, what if COVID has something? So if anybody has seen the image of a COVID virus, everybody must have seen that generally it is portrayed as a ball which has different spikes around it. We called it as spike proteins. So we made a short fragment of a peptide that specifically binds to that protein, and we made that capture peptide which bound to that COVID virus spike protein and immobilized it on a surface. Then we had another probe come in and bind to this spike protein, which makes it do a reaction in which you can do colorimetric assays. So based on the concentration of the virus, you can see there will be a change in the intensity of the color.
Yeah.
And the intensity of the color was measured using that CD-DVD drive. Basically, it had a laser and a photo detector. When that laser falls on the surface, it is again reflected back and is measured. Its intensity is measured by that photo detector. And based on that intensity readings, we can characterize how much was there, or if it was there or not, based on if the reaction has happened or not. We tried to employ that using a CD-DVD drive.
Wow.
So this was a small project idea that time. So there I got introduced with instrumentation aspects. So it started out with two of us, but eventually Ashwin joined in. Then we started going into hackathons. Different hackathons were happening during that time. So I started with one hackathon. There our idea was not even formed. So I was fortunate that I was looking for a team that has good experience in instrumentation. So
during COVID, I think lockdowns and all were there at that time.
yeah, so we had everyone had returned to their homes. I was in my home only.
So you are doing it online?
Yeah.
All of this?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I brought some of the things in my home only, and I was doing everything in my home.
So you said you had to prepare a peptide which will bind with that virus.
Yeah.
So
that was again initial days. That was again idea phase.
Formulation of the idea.
you were.
Yeah, but
okay.
after that we even got a chance to do all of that.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
Okay. So how did you manage?
No, even before that happened, so we had to pass a certain level that our device itself should work.
Yeah.
That's where the instrumentation part help was required. So I was looking for people who know hardware hacking or know. So see, as a consumer, you don't know how to use this kind of machines, right? Or these technologies. Generally, you don't have access to them. So I was looking for people who have done this hardware hacking sort of thing before. So in one of the hackathons where we even were not even able to compete the first time, but what I found was two, three people there who would end up joining me in that project. So one guy was from EPFL PhD guy in computer. Yeah.
Wow.
He is a pretty old guy, but he did his PhD I think in 1996 around.
Very senior guy.
Very senior guy.
So right that time, what was he doing? when you
He, as I said, he is a core software engineering guy
Okay.
who was into hardware hacking as well. He used to
Okay,
make
okay,
softwares for people.
Okay.
So he was one of the candidates who responded to my message while I was trying to find people for a certain task. Who knows how to hack into these kind of CD DVDs and how to get the signal and things like that. Who works on firmwares, because these are the things that you don't generally get. Then he was the expert on that guy. So then we made a team. Then we went into another UNDP, United Nations Detection and Protect Challenge.
Wow, for COVID-19.
Yeah, it was a specific hackathon for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So there we displayed our full project, how we did, and some sort of recognition was there that time. Like we have to present before a panel of judges and things like that. So that was one of the projects from that. There I got introduced into little bit into the actual bio and point of care devices in a way. From that time I thought I'll get into this field. And again biomaterials were an interest to me. So as I said, I had planned this before that, and during this time what happened was I had secured an internship at Cambridge, but
Wow.
COVID happened, but I could not go.
Oh my God.
So this was during my third year.
Okay, I see.
So it was in biomimetic materials. Professor Silvia Vinolini is her name, under which I had got a chance to do. So they worked on cellulose nanomaterials,
Wow.
production of cellulose nanomaterials and how to modify them to make different colors. So
Oh, interesting.
it is basically little bit of biophotonics in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So things like that I have had exposure to. So all of this planning I started 1 year back, even before. So basically this planning was in second year for my third year.
Where you didn't know what COVID was.
So, yeah.
What
But
I-
then again,
Okay.
I had to plan.
Okay, wow. Great to hear. Okay, so I think our talk is still on. There's a lot we need to still talk on, right? We have covered half of things,
Yeah.
but let's take a short break. He hasn't eaten much. We have both finished our snacks, so let's give him some time off. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, we are back. So we had a really nice discussion with Gourav. It was quite engrossing. I didn't know many of the things about what all he had done, but now like thinking about the opportunities that he utilized and the way he approaches things, he has shared some of his thought processes, how he approaches things. So that was really nice to hear. I think we can learn a lot about it, like from him. I am sure I will be learning a lot and maybe using some of that approach in my work also. So it was really nice discussing on your experiences. So with this now we'll, I think, wrap this up, but definitely there's a lot more to talk about. There are a few points which I really wanted to discuss. I am sure that it will be really interesting to talk on those, but we'll have another session definitely to do that. So for now we'll be closing. Thanks a lot for agreeing to come, and I hope we'll be doing another session again very soon.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Welcome.